Hello, everyone. This is Fyer-Huné here with my series Creative Through COVID. And this is the lovely Jessica Farrell, who I'm really super excited. And I've told a few friends that I'm interviewing you because on it, in LinkedIn it says Lego brick artist. Is that right?
That's right, yes. I
Yeah.
actually get to play with Lego bricks all day and call it work.
Go on, elaborate. Go on, tell me more because I'm so. My friends, I can't believe I'm actually talking to someone who does this. They think it's amazing. So go on.
Well, I divide my time in two, and for the first half of the time, I do models for exhibition at home and abroad. And I also then do Lego workshops with families and children in schools and all sorts of places, and it keeps me really, really busy. I do the models for exhibition as well as for bespoke builds. I do commission work and I also do community projects as well.
So, did you help this when I'm thinking of these big projects? Is that something like, like Lego World has got the big pieces of Lego that are made out of like different animations and different people? Is that like a project making something like that?
I tend to treat my Lego building more as works of art. So they would be highly detailed, extremely time consuming, use thousands and thousands of pieces, but not necessarily be enormous. The largest model I ever did actually was about 10 foot long and about 2 foot high. So that would have been the biggest, but you can get models that are absolutely huge. But I go in for the very fine detail and I go for the art and the beauty of the model.
I was going to say, from the sounds of it, it sounds like yours is, even if it, yeah, the detail that you put into it. How did you get into this?
Well, we'd have to go back to when I was 4 years old, and my mother gave me my very first set. And at the time, there were no instructions in the box, just pictures on the cover that were a source of inspiration. And I thought, oh, I'm going to build that house. I'm going to build this here, build that. And then when I started to try it, my builds kept falling down. I was trying to build this house. I knew what I wanted in my head, but the walls wouldn't stay together because I hadn't figured out how to do the brick pattern. And I didn't understand that basic engineering skill. So everything fell down. I went to my mother, said, my house won't stand up. And she said, figure it out. You can do it. Figure it out. So I tried, and it fell down again. And then finally I got the wall to stand up, and I was so pleased. And then I tried the roof, and the roof caved in. So I went back to her and I said, the roof was falling in. And she said, but you figured out the wall, so you could figure out the roof. And when I did, that sense of achievement of having done it, that sort of stuck with me. And from that point on, I didn't want anything else but Lego bricks to play with, not a single toy except for Lego. And I carried on through that until what we hit, as Lego builders call it, the dark ages. And the dark ages is when you turn away from the light of building and you start doing boring stuff, like you get jobs and things like that, and you have to kind of grow up and pay mortgages and things. And you forget about building with bricks and you forget about the fun that you had. And then something, in my case, I started getting really jealous of my children's Christmas presents. Something brings you back. And when you're brought back, if you are like me, which is an AFA, which is an adult fan of Lego, you become hooked. And I was fortunate enough to join a community of other AFOs. And at that point, I suddenly felt as if a whole new light had shone because I had grown up in a family of artists. And all of the first females of about 4 generations in my family were good artists. And I inherited the gene to create art, but I couldn't find a medium that suited me. And I struggled with that. And I eventually had given up because all my paintings didn't look quite right. The watercolors looked horrible. The drawings were good, but not good enough. But then when I came back to Lego, I discovered that Lego was the medium. And then I felt as if all of that pent up creativity just came pouring out into the Lego models. So
When did that kick off for you then? So when was like when did that go boom? This is it. How old were you? Like, was that years ago now? Like,
2014.
oh, so not too far ago. No,
No, not too far. No. Yeah, it's like starting a whole new chapter of life, actually.
I bet that felt really good.
Yes, it did. It did. It was. It was almost like finding. It's like going to another planet or discovering there's another whole dimension or something like that out there. It was. I was discovering a whole new world. It was wonderful.
Oh, I can just imagine like a complete restart. It's no longer the kids are playing with it, but you've actually got a job and you enjoy it and you make art with it. Come on, that is brilliant, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And then I also discovered that I wanted to share that. So I started, well, funnily enough, somebody came to the door. I was the member of a Tidy Towns group. In Ireland, we have the Tidy Towns, a little bit like Britain in Bloom. And the community does projects for the local area. And one of the members of the group, she came to the door and she said that they had just gotten some funding for something called Creative Ireland, and they were looking for some ideas at the next meeting of what to do a sort of creative, innovative project that would benefit the community. So I was actually building that day with my son, and he was just reaching that sort of teenager time, and communication was a bit difficult, and we were building together. And prior to that day, we were always arguing about who had the most space in the Lego room rather than actually building together. But we had found common ground and we were building something together, and that sense of connection was fabulous. And we were realizing that we could communicate through the Lego bricks in a way that we weren't able to just as mother and son. And it had forged a whole new bond. So when they said we want a creative initiative for the community, I thought, well, maybe I could take Lego as the creative part and take the family bond for the community part. So I developed family workshops where families come together and build and play as a family experience. And so that's the other half of what I do. And it's just as fulfilling as the first half.
That sounds really, really good. Do your siblings, do your children have any job that's similar? Have they got any passion like you? Have they continued it?
All of my children are passionate about what they do. They're all very creative, but they have their own different things. Like my eldest daughter is into graphic design, graphic art. But then again, sometimes I rope her in to help me with some of my own designs and obviously some of the graphic work of what I do.
So when you say that you work for Lego, have you literally been to like, I don't know if there is a Lego, like a humongous, is there a Lego office?
Well, I don't work for Lego because I'm a freelancer, but I am well, I have gone to the Lego headquarters. It's beautiful, beautiful place. It's in Billund in Denmark, and they have a massive headquarters there. Actually, it takes up pretty much the whole town. And when I was there the first time, I sort of had this really strange feeling like I was coming home. Very strange way to describe it. But when I walked through the buildings, I felt, I get it. I understand what the company is all about. I understand the ethos underneath it. I understand the core principles. And I felt, yeah, I'm really glad that this is what I'm doing.
God,
So although I'm not an employee of the Lego Group, I do feel a strong, close connection.
of course, of course. Um, so do they not give you any like promos and stuff like that because you promote their work so much?
Well, actually, they give me free rein to do what I want. Obviously, they don't try to rule me or tell me what to do. And in return, I'm very respectful of the company's core values. I would never try to impede on intellectual property rights, for example. I would never try to use their trademark in a way that was incorrect. And fortunately for me, the values that I have and the beliefs that I would have about how to use the brick runs fairly much parallel with what they have, so there's never been a problem. And all in all, as a company, they're extremely approachable, very friendly, very helpful, and very supportive as well.
Brilliant. Going back to your own work, what's your style then?
Sorry.
What's your style like that you like to create with Lego?
um I want to give a message. I want to evoke a response. So there has to be something in it that's emotive. And it doesn't matter what the piece is. It can be anything from a real life building to a sea serpent. But I want somebody to look at it and feel something. So I spend a good deal of time on the composition and also on the colors and everything that I feel would create some form of emotion. So I think number one is beauty and feel, that something that you can't actually describe, but you can feel it when you see it.
Oh, that just sounds beautiful. Just from you saying it, do you know what I mean? That's what's the like the most your favorite thing that you've created then? If you can pick one, I know that's a really hard question.
It's very hard because each one of my builds are like my babies, because I would put so much into them that they are, well, they're sort of part of me by the time they're finished. The most recent project, well, not the most recent, but the largest project to date, and it was just finished last October, was a pretty large model. It's the one that was 10 foot long. It's of Liberty of London, the department store in London. And it's the full building, front and interior as well, and all of the floors, and completely furnished along with all the shoppers. And it's actually on display in the department store. And you could see it if everything wasn't under lockdown, but
Well,
it's on display in the store. So I'm very proud of that one.
that sounds incredible. And to be honest, people, whoever's watching this, let's go and visit there after COVID. God, that sounds. How long did that take you to do?
That took a year.
A year.
Yeah, it did.
I'm guessing because it's that much detail. Did you have to, before you did that, did you have to like go there, study it, or did you go off like a picture? How did you?
Well, first I had to research the entire history of the store and also research the ethos and principles of the store. Make sure that when I was recreating it, that I included everything about the shopping experience, so that, well, for example, when I was reading about the store, which I happen to like the store anyway, I think it's beautiful, and I love the displays. I particularly like their artistic displays. But when I was reading about it, they said that they wanted the shopping experience to be such that no matter where you were in the store, you always knew you were in Liberty. So I wanted to build it so that when you looked in it on any particular spot, you'd know, oh, this is a model of Liberty, even if you just zeroed in on a small bit of it. So I had to do about, maybe a week of intense research. And then I had to fly over and take 700 photographs, inside and out.
Every single angle, I bet, like literally the
Everything.
tiniest of angles, because you have to.
Everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, that sounds very long-winded. But it sounds like at the end it got you the product, and when you know that you're going to make it, I bet it excites you. I bet that researching, because you're like, oh well, this is what I'm going to create.
Yes, yes. It keeps me going, because sometimes if it's a long project, as I get towards the end, I start to flag, like, am I ever going to get this done? But I remember that initial excitement, and then it sort of gets me over that last hurdle.
That is what I was going to say. What is the hardest thing about being a Lego artist? Is it the patience?
The hardest thing, I think, is well, actually, funnily enough, the hardest hurdle I ever had in building with Lego was when I was a little girl, because at that time everybody thought that Lego was a boy's toy. Now, Lego themselves never marketed it as just a boy's toy at all, but for some reason or another, everybody that I knew thought that it was a boy's toy. So my first hurdle was convincing everybody that this is what I wanted. And no, I didn't want that doll. And no, I didn't want that tea set. I wanted more Lego. And when they said, but you've already got tons of Lego, why don't you get this? And I said, but if I want that, I can build it. But why don't you have that? If I want it, I can build it. Just get me more Lego. So that was hurdle number one.
That's
um,
hurdle, actually.
as an adult builder, I think, well, as an artist, I think one of the hurdles is that people would recognize the Lego brick as a genuine art medium. Some people would think of it just as a toy. And paradoxically, I also feel that one of the hurdles is that it is indeed a toy. And I don't want people to think that it's not a toy, because as a toy, that's what makes it wonderful. I don't want to take away from it the fact that it is a toy. So I want it as a piece of art, but I don't want to lose that sense of play that Lego is all about.
Yes, that must be. I'm trying to think. So how did you get over these hurdles then?
Well, actually, my son helps with that because one of his areas that he's very good at is minifigure scenarios. And he can take a couple of minifigures and he can have you in stitches with tears. And whenever I'm building, when I leave the room, he always sneaks in and he puts minifigures. Oftentimes, they could be anything from stormtroopers from Star Wars or various, a little alien or something. And he'll put them all over my build. And then I pretend to get really frustrated and annoyed. But actually, I secretly like it because he reminds me of the sense of play. So whenever I start getting really serious about one aspect of it and start fiddling over minute details, and I go away and come back and find that there's stormtroopers and aliens all over my build, that kind of lightness brings it back to me. And I remember that first and foremost, it's about having a great play experience.
That's brilliant. And then how did you get over the it being a boy's toy? Because I can feel like a lot of people have that, and it's quite a major thing at the moment with having the rights and everything. So how did you get over that hurdle? Just own it.
When I was little, I just kept building. And I wrote a letter to Lego. I think I was about 8, and I sent a letter to them talking about how much I love to build and how I felt that there should be more things for girls, and also that I wanted to just keep on building and I didn't want anybody to stop me. And I got a lovely letter back that I still have. And they said that there already are lots of pieces for girls because every Lego piece is for a girl just as much as it is for a boy. And it's what I choose to do with it that makes the difference. And they said, as long as I put my heart into it and make my own creations, then they are a girl's brick because I'm a girl. And that was such a lovely thing to say. And they also said, keep on building, keep on building. And one day, maybe when you grow up, you can build with Lego as a grown up because you don't have to stop when you grow up. And this was going back a long time, way before there was ever like adult fans of Lego or anything like that. So that actually meant a lot to me. And I had the wonderful opportunity about 3 years ago to talk to the owner of the company and tell him that story. And he was delighted. He was tickled with the story.
Do you know what? That's really lovely. Like, so many major, because Lego's so big, been big for years. Like, that's a big, big company. And they replied to you. A lot of companies don't do that. Like, they just be like, you know, just a number. But how they got in touch with you and personally got in touch with you, I mean, it's amazing. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they're still like that. Like they really do listen to people. And I know that if they get a letter from somebody now or an email or something, they take it seriously, they listen to it, and they may or may not act on it depending, but they always take it seriously and listen. Yeah.
That's lovely. Now, I want to know what you're doing now. Like, what are you making now? What are you creating?
Well, I've just completed, well, a couple of weeks ago, a little series of vignettes called, it was for COVID-19. And it was a series of reflections of Ireland's response to the pandemic. And I wanted to just have little sort of like snapshots of our experience and have it for posterity, have it for exhibition in years to come. I also wanted to post it up just so that people could reflect at the time. So I started with sort of humorous ones, like, for example, my very first one was toilet paper panic. So you can imagine what that looked like.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely. Wow, that's going to be in the history books, that is.
So I did, and they're just vignettes, so they're just perfect size for a screen, say, and kind of like movie sets. And so I did some funny ones, and then I took the tone and moved it into a little bit more serious. Like I had the sort of reality inside an ICU, for example, just to remind people that it wasn't all fun. And then I moved into the very poignant. I touched on some of the areas like elderly people having to be in isolation and not getting their grandchildren to visit them, and how they might feel. And I tried to capture the essence of that in one of the builds where I had an elderly man sitting in his sitting room looking at the other empty chairs there, and just trying to create that sort of feel, and a couple of other poignant ones. And then I felt, well, that was enough. When I got to the graveyard scene, I felt, okay, I've hit, but I felt that, yes, this is a very serious one. The fact that people can't even mourn properly, they can't even have the comfort of community around them when they lose a loved one because they have to socially distance. So I felt that was too important to leave out. But I had to think really carefully, because remember, Lego is a toy and it's all about playing, and I didn't want to make light of a serious subject. Neither did I want to use the bricks in the wrong way. So I had to think very carefully to hit the right note. And after that, I actually felt physically wrung out. It was so emotional that I felt it physically. I just felt tired. So I went on then to Hopeful Ones, and I finally ended on a very high note, which is what, well, it was titled Baby Boom 2021.
Oh gosh, I could just imagine. I'd never even thought about that.
Yes.
Wow. This has proper tickled me, this, huh? I think you've just read the future there, you have, darling.
So I thought I'd end on a high note for the future, because I think that's really important. So that's what I've just finished. And at the moment, I'm doing some models for a book that's going to be published either at the end of this year or early next year.
Gosh,
so that should be fun.
Or is that to be confirmed?
Well, it's a book aimed at 7 to 9 year olds. It'll be fun. I can't really talk much about it, but it should be in the book.
It sounds fun. That sort of age, like that's the play straight in there, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a very precious age. It's a lovely age.
You've been busy. For
Yeah.
COVID, you have been busy. This is why I made this, because creatives, even if probably like I've noticed a lot of the creative people that I've interviewed, everyone had 2 weeks of pure panic, the pure, oh my God, what's going to happen? And then all creative people just got their boots on, didn't go outside, but just got creative and went crazy. And it's brilliant to hear this. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't all easy, I have to say. Like when it first hit, I was just embarking on a project that was going to be really exciting. And it was just something I had been looking forward to for a while. And it was just getting off the ground. And it involved a lot of international travel. So, of course, it had to stop abruptly. And I just felt like everything was just suddenly spinning wheels, not going anywhere. And it was really hard to focus in the first couple of weeks. And there are times when I think, is this never going to end? But
yeah,
fortunately, with the creativity, I can always get pulled back from that sort of doom and gloom feel and get stuck into something. And then when it's done and I've done something good, I can feel like I've contributed or done something worthwhile.
and you definitely have. I can't. Where can we see all your work?
Let's see. Actually, I have an account on DeviantArt. Have you heard of that? No. I don't know why they call it DeviantArt. There's nothing deviant about it. But
I think that's why I might have heard of it, because I'm like, no.
I have an account there under my own name, Jessica Farrell. I also have Flickr. Okay, I'm on Flickr as well. And again, under Jessica Farrell, so it's there. I don't have a website because I'm in the midst of what is this? My daughter, who's in graphic design, says I need to brand myself properly, and you have to think very carefully about that. So I'm sort of in the midst of thinking about what kind of brand I want to be. So I haven't done the website yet because I want to do it right first time.
Oh, so something to look forward to then. And obviously we can get you on LinkedIn, because that's how I found you.
Yeah.
Because I want to see all this work I do. This sounds.
If you Google Jessica Farrell Lego, you will see it all.
Oh, well, that's another major way to find you, because this sounds, can't wait. It's all the ones you've just said on there, all the COVID-19, because that sounds amazing.
I believe if you Google Jessica Farrell Lego, all the news stuff will come up, the various interviews, and certainly the pictures of Liberty will come up. Her Majesty's Theatre will come up. A lot of stuff will come up. Some of the workshop results will come up. And as far as I know, there should be links to the various galleries as well.
Brilliant. Well, Jess, okay, well, we did all my questions. I want to meet you in person because this sounds incredible. I want to go.
Well, I'm really looking forward to when all the restrictions are lifted and I can get back to doing exhibiting internationally. And the UK was one of the stops. You know, I have exhibited there several times, and I'd like to be going back again sometime soon.
Please do. I mean, if you're coming to Manchester, please come over here because we need some more art around here. And that your art sounds like it's just going to tick a million boxes. But thank you so much for your time, Jessica, and stay safe, stay creative.
Thank you.
See you later. Bye.
All right. Bye. Bye-bye.